Hi, good morning, friends. Welcome back for another Teacher Breeze Circle time. Let's start with our hello song. Let's sing hello, hello. Let's sing hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Let's sing hello, hello. Let's wave hello, hello. Let's wave hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Let's wave hello, hello. Let's clap hello, hello. Let's clap hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Let's clap hello, hello. All right, thanks for doing the hello song with me. That was some great tapping, waving, and clapping. Tapping, clapping sounds the same. That's a fun rhyming word. Today, my friends, we're going to do an activity together that if you get packets from us, you got this in your packet. If there's any of you out there who want this activity and you don't get packets from me, I could email it to you. Just send me a message and I will email the document to you. You can print it and do this activity at home. Okay? This book is called Goodnight, Gorilla. Now, I know we've read it before, but I want to read it again. And then afterwards, we're going to sequence and retell the story because that's a really, really important skill for understanding reading and books is to be able to sequence a story after hearing it and to retell the story. So that's what we're practicing today. Good night, Gorilla. First, the zookeeper comes and he says, "Good night, Gorilla." And then, look, the monkey, the gorilla, takes his keys. There he goes out of his cage. And look, the little mouse is following him. He's following the zookeeper around the zoo. "Good night, elephant." What do you think the gorilla's gonna do? What's he gonna do? He's gonna let that elephant out of his cage. Oh. "Good night, lion." Look, what's the gorilla doing? He's letting the lion out of his cage. Now, does the zookeeper know that the gorilla is letting the animals out of his cage? Is he paying attention? I don't think he is. "Good night, hyena." "Good night, giraffe." Oh, look at that gorilla. He's being sneaky and letting more animals out of their cage. "Good night, armadillo." Oh, there's all the animals out of their cages, and now they're going to let the armadillo out. And off they go back to the zookeeper's house. There goes the zookeeper in his house. And there goes the animals following in a line. And into the bedroom. They're all very tired. And the zookeeper's wife says, "Good night, dear." "Good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night." What was that? Somebody's feeling surprised. She says, "Who's that? Who's in here?" You naughty little animals. Look how happy the gorilla is with himself. He's so thrilled about his mischievous behavior. And they tromp back to the zoo. She says, "Back to the zoo with you." And then she says, "Good night, zoo." But look at the gorilla. He's still there. And the little mouse is still following him with the banana. "Good night, dear." "Good night." Look, what's the gorilla doing? sneaking back into bed. Good night, gorilla. That gorilla is so tired from all his shenanigans. He was a troublemaker. So we are going to go through and we are going to glue in order how the animals came out of the zoo, so with the cages. So just the first part of the story we get to sequence together. So the first thing that happens is the zookeeper comes. So you're going to find your zookeeper picture and you are going to glue it first. It's going to be the first one on your page. So you're going to glue it first. Then the gorilla grabs the keys. So you're going to have the gorilla next. Oops. And you're going to get the keys, okay, and put them next in line, okay. Then the mouse follows him out of the cage. So you're gonna get the mouse and you are going to put him next. He goes next. He goes after the keys. So first the zookeeper comes to say, "Good night, gorilla." Then the gorilla takes the keys and the mouse follows him out of the cage. Then they go say goodbye to the elephant. So you're going to find the elephant and you are going to put it next after the mouse. Okay? And then after the elephant, they say goodnight to the lion. So you're going to find the lion and you are going to put him next. Okay? Then they say goodnight to the hyena. So you're going to find the hyena and you're going to put him next. Then they say goodnight to the, what's this animal? Giraffe. Very good. And you are going to put the giraffe next in line. And the last animal that they say goodnight to and let out of the cage is the armadillo. So you're going to find your armadillo and you are going to put him right here last. He is the last animal. Can you see that? The last. So when I retell the story, I say, the zookeeper comes and he says, "Good night, gorilla." And then the gorilla takes his keys and the mouse, and he opens the cage and the mouse follows him out of the cage. And then they go say, "Good night, elephant." And then they take the elephant out of the cage. Then they say, "Good night, lion." And then they take the lion out of the cage. And then they say, "Good night, hyena." And they let the hyena out of the cage. And then they say, "Good night, giraffe." And then they let the giraffe out of the cage. And then they say, "Good night, armadillo." And then they let the armadillo out of the cage. And then what do? You can tell the rest of the story. You can say, then they walk all in a line to the zookeeper's house, where they sneak in and they go in the bedroom. And the zookeeper's wife says, "Good night." And they say, "Good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night." And she says, "What? How did these animals get in here? You're going back to the zoo." And she marches them back to the zoo. And she leaves them there and she says, "Good night, zoo." And the sneaky little gorilla with the keys and the mouse sneak back to the zookeeper's house. sneak into the bed and they have a slumber party all together. So you can tell that story with your family. That will be fun to do. I hope that you do that because I worked hard on making those pictures for you. All right, we are gonna do one song. And I think it will be fun for us to do some animal actions today.
Come on, everybody, come down to the zoo. We're gonna do a dance like the animals do.
Animal action is so much fun. Animal action.
Move like a horse.
Well, like a horse, you're gonna have to gallop. So. Can you gallop like that? Gallop. Whoa. Animal action is so much fun. Animal action.
Move like a spider.
Like a spider. Animal action is so much fun. Animal action.
Move like a bunny.
Like a bunny. Oop, you gotta hop. Ready? Hop, 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 hop like a bunny. Animal action is so much fun. Animal action.
Move like a lion.
Like a lion. Or lions crawl on all fours. You can crawl and roar. You make it roar. Animal action is so much fun. Animal action.
Move like a bee.
Like a bee. And you might sting somebody. Animal action is so much fun. Animal action.
Move like a duck.
Like a duck. Quack, quack. Quack, quack. Animal action is so much fun. Animal action. All right, thanks for doing some animal actions with me. That is a fun thing to do, is think of a bunch of different animals and do all the actions that they do. You can do that at home for exercise. That would be fun. My friends, thank you for joining me today. Today is Thursday, May 21st, and next week is our last week of preschool. So, wow, we have till June 1st. So, Monday, June 1st will be my last circle time. I am sad to see the end of the year come in this way, but I am so happy that I have some way to reach out with you and spend time with you. And thank you for all of you who have been coming on Zoom with me for my Zoom class sessions. It makes me just feel so good to see the kids and to spend time with them. I will hope that you have a great Memorial Day weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.